Good day and welcome to Frontliner on Ogama TV, the program where we go beyond the headlines to examine the issues shaping our society, our politics, and our nation. I am Chidiogo Asuke, and on Frontliner, we don't just tell you what is happening. We ask the questions that matter, examine the facts, and bring different perspectives to the table. From politics and governance to social issues and developments affecting our everyday lives. Frontliner gives you the opportunity to understand the issues beyond the surface. Today we turn our attention to one of the biggest political conversations ahead of the 2027 general elections. The growing moves by opposition parties to form a united political front against the ruling APC. For months, there have been growing conversations about the possibility of a broad coalition of opposition parties coming together to form a formidable political force against the ruling All Progressive Congress. As Nigerians move closer to the 2027 general elections, a familiar political conversation is gaining momentum. Can Nigerians' opposition politicians truly put their personal ambitions aside and unite around one candidate for the sake of the country? Politics is often described as the art of compromise, but in Nigeria, where political ambition can be as strong as party loyalty, this question continues to dominate the conversation ahead of the 2027 general elections. The latest development is the proposed G100 Unity Summit, scheduled to hold in Abuja on August 18, 2026. The group says it has held consultations with leaders of 6 opposition parties, including the African Democratic Congress, Allied People's Movement, National Democratic Congress, People's Democratic Party, People's Redemption Party, and Social Democratic Party. According to the G100, these consultations have produced a common recognition that opposition parties must work more closely together if they are to present a credible alternative to Nigerians in 2027. But there is something particularly important about this conversation. Nigerians have seen coalition talks before. We have seen political heavyweights sit around the same table. We have seen discussions involving figures such as Peter Obi, Atiku Abubakar, Rotimi Amechi, and others. We have also seen previous efforts fail to produce a single political force, largely because of disagreements over leadership, presidential ambition, party structure, and who should ultimately lead. So the big question for Frontliner today is, what will make this G100 initiative different? Is this finally the beginning of a serious opposition alliance, or are we witnessing another cycle of political consultation that could collapse when the question of the presidential ticket eventually comes to the table? Now, why is the opposition seeking unity? The argument being presented by the G100 is straightforward. A fragmented opposition, regardless of the individual strength of its politicians, may struggle to mount an effective challenge against a well-established ruling party. The group says its objective is not simply to merge political parties for the sake of winning an election. It says the larger objective is to provide Nigerians with a credible democratic alternative. And that raises an important question. Is opposition unity primarily about defeating the APC, or should it be about offering Nigeria a better political alternative? Because if the coalition is built only on the desire to remove one political party from power, what happens after the victory? A successful coalition needs more than a common opponent. It needs a common vision. It needs agreed principles. It needs a clear understanding of how power will be shared. And perhaps, most importantly, it needs trust. Now let's talk about the biggest obstacle facing Nigerians' political coalition talks: personal ambition. This may be the most difficult part of the entire project. The G100 itself has acknowledged that unity will require sacrifice, compromise and the willingness to place national interest above individuals and partisan considerations. But how realistic is that? Imagine a situation where 3 or 4 major political figures believe they are capable of winning the presidency. Who steps aside? Who becomes the presidential candidate? Who accepts the vice presidential position? What happens to those who have spent years building their political structure? And perhaps the most difficult question, who determines which candidate has the best chance of winning? This is where previous coalition efforts have faced serious difficulty. It is one thing for politicians to agree that the opposition should unite. It is another thing for them to agree that they personally should step aside to make that unity possible. That is the real test. What about the APC factor? There is also the question of the ruling APC. The opposition coalition is clearly being discussed against the background of the APC's position as the governing party. But the existence of a coalition does not automatically guarantee victory. The opposition will still have to convince Nigerians that it deserves their votes. Nigerians will want to know, what is the coalition's economic plan? How will it address insecurity? What is the plan for unemployment and poverty? How will it improve education and healthcare? What will it do differently from previous governance? And perhaps, most importantly, can the coalition convince Nigerians that it is more than an alliance of politicians seeking power? Because voters may not simply vote against the APC, they may want to know what they are voting for. Let's not forget the timing. The August 18 G100 summit comes at an important moment. Political parties are already uploading details of their presidential candidates and running mates on the Independent National Electoral Commission portals. That means the opposition cannot afford endless consultations. At some point, discussions must produce concrete decisions. A coalition needs a structure, it needs leadership, it needs a decision-making process, it needs a method of selecting candidates, it needs a manifesto, it needs dispute resolution mechanisms, and it needs a clear message to the Nigerian electorate. The window for political negotiations cannot remain open indefinitely. Now, the proposed G100 Unity Summit may become another political meeting in Nigeria's long history of coalition talks, or it may become the beginning of something much bigger. The difference will not be determined by the number of political parties represented at the summit. It will be determined by the willingness of political leaders to compromise, because the greatest challenge facing the coalition is not necessarily finding common ground against the APC. The greatest challenge is deciding who will sacrifice what. If the politicians can agree that the future of Nigeria is bigger than any individual's ambition, then the G100 initiative could potentially mark a significant turning point in opposition politics. But if personal ambition, party loyalty, zoning disagreements, and the struggle for presidential ticket once again takes center stage, Nigerians may witness another coalition that begins with optimism and ends with fragmentation. The message from the Ibadan Declaration is therefore worth reflecting upon. Can Nigerians' opposition genuinely unite behind one credible candidate? And more importantly, are the political leadership prepared to make the sacrifice required to make that unity possible? That is the real test. Because in 2027, Nigerians will not only be watching the politicians, they will be watching who is willing to put Nigerians first. As we wrap up today's edition, don't forget that this is Frontliner, where we bring you unadulterated facts about issues shaping our nation. We keep our fingers crossed and our eyes wide open as we watch the conversations progress. For more updates and breaking news, don't forget to follow us on our socials on Facebook at Ogama TV, on Instagram at Ogama TV1, on X at Ogama TV, on YouTube at Ogama TV. Also visit our website at www.ogamatvnews.com. I am Chidiogo Asuke. Many thanks for watching. Bye for now.
What's trending? What do you know? What are they not telling you? This Sunday, step into the front line of truth. Frontliner with Chidiogo, a bold new program on Ogama TV. We break down viral topics, analyze trending issues, and uncover the real story behind the headlines. No filters, no bias, just facts. Showing every Sunday only on Ogama TV. Frontliner, stay ahead, stay informed.